Hi, it's Pete Nordsted here. Welcome to another Trade on Sports and Focused on Football betting podcast. As usual, I'm joined by Jimmy Kempton. It's a new season, doing the sort of same approach. However, you're doing something different this season. What are you doing, Jimmy?
Certainly am, Peter. I've entered the Substack world and I'm going to be publishing daily articles on Substack over all the English leagues. I just got a slightly different format this season. And obviously, talking of different formats, we're back on camera. Crikey, I wish I'd
Yes.
been to the
Yeah.
gym a little bit more, but you can catch me on Substack at Jimmy Kempton Bets. And I do apologise in advance, folks. I'm a bit of a Luddite with these technological things. Don't really know what I'm doing, so apologies in advance if some of my posts are duplicated, but it's all going to be good stuff. Well analysed, good research, and a bit of fun along the way.
Yes, and on the Trade on Sports side of things, we've got a major upgrade. The football and tennis are being upgraded. The horse racing's being upgraded, and we've got a new US sports app. So that should be good. That should be I reckon available in about 2 to 4 weeks' time. But obviously, I'll keep you updated on this podcast. Right, let's have a look then. We start then in the championship.
So before we start,
Wool.
Peter, what just thinking off the top of my head, in terms of obviously got punters, very experienced punters, new betters into the market. What do you look for, sort of opening day, the first couple of weeks of the season, and how does your approach differ from like sort of mid-season?
You've got to be sort of cautious. Obviously, quite a few of these games that we're discussing today, I've got no ratings for. So obviously, the tendency is to leave it alone unless you see some trends in that handicap. Basically, you can look for trends, how promoted teams have done on the opening day, etc., etc., etc. But I do prefer it once they settle down. I'm not over keen, to be quite honest. A lot of these games, I would sort of just put a watching brief on. Like a
Yeah, I think.
relegated, like the Middlesbrough Lincoln game for a start. That's a game we don't quite know where Lincoln stand at the minute.
Yeah, I think there can be really, really good opportunities early on in the season, but there's also some massive pitfalls if you take the wrong opinion of a team, or if the
Mm.
bookmakers have got the wrong opinion of a team and you follow him blindly. As I say, I think if you can do a bit of research, listen to sort of like some of the managerial comments early on in the season, possibly don't pay too much attention to the stats. Um, but I think there's some really good opportunities, but also there's a bit of risk. And remember, it's a long season, folks. So don't be using 10-20% of
Yeah.
your available betting bank in the first couple of weeks when everything's a little bit up in the air. But I do think there are some opportunities in these 8 games that we're going to look at
Yes,
today.
and don't go wading in on these favourites. That's what I would say.
Yes, fully agreed on that, Peter. Talking of favourites, who have we got first?
Yeah, we got Wolves against Blackburn first match, -1 goal handicap. Obviously, the teams haven't met recently. In fact, Wolves, they've been in the Premier League for 8 consecutive seasons before being relegated. Blackburn, when they're +1 goal away from home in the Championship, there's been 6 matches. They've won one, drawn one, lost four. All four of those losses were by 2 or more goals. However, last season, they've only, in the last 5 matches, they'd only lost one of the last 5 away matches. So they were quite a good team, actually, Blackburn away. -1 goal in the Championship. There's been 180 matches, 110 home, 41 draw, 29 away. When you break it down into the handicap, the home side covered it 65 times, there's 45 pushes, and the away side covered it 70 times. It's a tricky one, this one. Again, this is one that you would sort of avoid because we don't know how good Wolves will be. I certainly wouldn't back them to win the game either.
Well, I watched a little bit of them the other night, Pete, in the Carabao Cup when they're hosting Port Vale, and I thought they might actually find that game a little bit difficult, but they blasted Vale away and got 3 goals in the first half. And freshly relegated sides win 64% of games at home against sides who finish in the bottom six, and that's where Blackburn did last season. You alluded to their great run at the back end of last season for Blackburn in terms of on the road. Have a change of manager. though. Tony Mowbray's coming, very popular man in and around Ewood Park, so there'll be good sentiment there for him. I think Wolves are clearly operating in a different stratosphere in terms of wages and, the projections of what they're going to do this season. I wouldn't be averse to backing them on the outright market around that 1.58 level, but I'm certainly not taking them on the handicap. Blackburn could make this a bit of a nervy first game, and what I would say as well, these sides they've had these first games penciled in for weeks. They'll have done all their preparation for this first game, so you might see some of these smaller, less fancy teams putting a really good performance in against a much stronger opponent on the first day, and then it could be future weeks where they could be a little bit more vulnerable. I certainly won't be backing Wolves -1, Pete.
Next up, Middlesbrough against Lincoln. I bet you're looking forward to this one. Are you going to the
So
game?
I'm not, Peter. No, I'm on cricket duties, and we only got a couple of thousand tickets, and they're all sold out. I think the game's going to be a sellout, though. It's going to be a hell of an atmosphere at the Riverside.
Yeah, right. Middlesbrough, Lincoln, -1.5 goals here. The two sides have not met. Middlesbrough, when they're -1.5 goals, they've won two, drawn one, lost none. None of the victories were by two or more goals. Lincoln, obviously, they're coming up from last season, great season, 103 points. And also, end of last season, they hadn't lost in 14 away games, 10 wins, 4 draws, in some great form, really. Handicap -1.5 goals, 50 matches, 38 home, 80 draw, 4 away. But when you break it down to the handicap, 22 home, 28 away. So there is a leaning to the away side. Obviously, Lincoln have changed the manager. I believe it's, well, you'll be embellishing on this. It's the head coaches have taken over the role, but I think this is a thing where I think Lincoln +1.5 makes sense here, but I think they're going to be tough team, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I think they will, Pete. They'll be really well organised. Head coaches have come in, Chris Cohen and Tom Shaw, joint managers. So I'm not quite sure, joint head coaches, shall I say. Never quite sure how that dynamic's going to work. There's not many sort of sample sizes of that over the course of history in football, and nowhere has it really worked. So it's really going to be interesting to see how that pans out. Yesterday they won away at Derby in the Carabao Cup, won 2-1. Now Derby have obviously got their own problems, but it's an example already of going away to a side of championship quality and getting a result on the road. The interesting thing for me here, Pete, is you talk about Lincoln being value on the Asian handicap line, and I fully agree that's where the value lies for this game. And we know that the Asian handicap line is always a derivative market of the match line. Middlesbrough best price 1.35 to win this game. You'd expect them to win the game, and I certainly wouldn't be laying Middlesbrough at 1.35. I wouldn't be taking them on. But that then means that the match line on the handicap line has to be 1.5. And I certainly think that is where the value lies, Pete. I mean, I think top six sides in the championship win only 35% of games against newly promoted sides, covering a 1.5 goal line. So even historically, the stats are with Lincoln on this handicap line. But obviously, I'm not going to let my heart rule my head here and just wade in on Lincoln. I might have a small wager on them, but I'll probably be keeping away from Lincoln games this season. I did very well out of them last season. Just don't want to get my emotion and my passion to carry me away, mate.
Next up, we've got Burnley against West Ham, +1/4 of a goal here. Recent head-to-heads, Burnley 1-0 has been one draw, West Ham have 1-3. Burnley, when they're +1/4 on the handicap in the Championship, they've only had one match and they drew that. West Ham obviously not been in the Championship since 2020. The handicap +1/4, 410 matches, 132 home, 107 draws, 171 away, making that 185.5, plays 171. My racing suggesting no value in the line. Burnley, they've not beaten West Ham in 6 attempts. I think if it was West Ham's scratch, I'd be interested in this.
What, back in West Ham?
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, West Ham have sold 48,000 season tickets. There is a buzz around the London Stadium with David Sullivan clearing off like there's never been. I've got a couple of good friends who are West Ham season ticket holders. They're genuinely looking forward to this season. This is a tough game, though. If you look at the raw numbers, freshly relegated sides from the Premier League wins 53% of games against their, compatriots, fellow relegated sides. So Burnley, by those trends, should be minus half a goal here, but they're receiving plus a quarter of a goal. Now, do we know what Burnley are going to be like this season? No, we don't. But we have a history, a body of work where they've fallen back down to the from the Premier League to the Championship, and they've competed at the very top end of the Championship in the following season. Their last two full Championship campaigns, Pete, do you know what Burnley's home record has been?
No, but it's got to be pretty good.
So they finished first and second in their last two full Championship seasons. They bounced back. 130, drawn 15, lost 1.
Wow.
So that now, if Burnley are going to be that side that falls back out the Premier League, and it doesn't really sort of cause them too many problems, a bit like Norwich used to be as well. That yo-yo club, and you could almost say that from a business perspective, it's a great model. You fall out the Premier League, you get your parachute money, you go straight back. Your fans have a really good time. But like the West Ham fans for years have some of them have pined for a relegation so they can then go on a promotion run. I mean, given Burnley's form in this spot, how can you oppose them here? I quite like Burnley plus a quarter of a goal, Pete.
Interesting game. Obviously, though, that thing, they have not beaten West Ham in 6 attempts. But
And
that
I
means
think some,
nothing, I suppose, does it?
And I think some of this will be name recognition as well. It's a standalone game. Who's the money going to
Yeah.
come for? A lot of hype around West Ham. They're very short to win the championship. It's going to be everybody's cup final. Possibly not so much for Burnley. As you say, we played them year in, year out. But, like when they come to Sincil Bank, West Ham and a night game, it's not going to be easy for West Ham. They are going to be everybody's team that they want to knock off.
Well, here's an interesting fixture in League One. Notts County against Leicester. And there's a lot of things we could say about this game. I mean, obviously, money is going to come in for Leicester. They're the name side here. Plus half a goal, the handicap. I was a little bit surprised to see plus half a goal. Notts County, obviously not been in this league. But the last 10 games of their League Two home. They won 6, drawn 1, lost 3. Leicester, when they were at their last 10 matches away from home in the championships, won 1, drawn 6, lost 3. Those 3 defeats only came against Coventry, Birmingham, and Portsmouth. So they were quite competitive. The handicap in the League One plus half a goal, 246 matches. 102 home, 144 away. So a real lean to the away sides in this handicap in this league. Obviously, East Midlands derby, 25 miles separating. This is the type of game where you've got to be careful. Obviously, if you say Notts County versus Leicester, you're immediately going to be thinking Leicester. I still think Leicester may win this, but I can't do this with any confidence. The line doesn't look right to me, but I've got no ratings on this. That's the problem.
Well, if we've known over many years, Nottingham Forest against Leicester is a massive, fierce rivalry, huge rivalry of equal weighting. Here, this is going to be another fierce rivalry, but possibly more from the Notts County side. So they will see this more as a big rivalry game than Leicester because they've been competing in different leagues for many seasons. And I mean, I'll be interested to know from a Notts County perspective how they feel about this game. Is this the sort of game that you want on opening day? An early kick-off, live on telly, a big local derby against the side that you sense is going to be far superior to you, that you might raise your game for on opening day when you're your fittest, your freshest, your most organised? Or is it a game where if you don't quite put a performance in and you get taken to the woodshed a bit by Leicester and they put a few past you, is that going to really hinder you moving forward? That said, you know, Leicester fans coming down to this level, they'll have seen what's happened to Sheffield Wednesday, happened to Sunderland in recent years. This is not an easy league to get out of when you are a big fish. In the same ways I've just mentioned about West Ham, everybody's going to be looking at Leicester saying this is the one we want to knock off. They're a double dip team. You know, can you almost can you almost resurrect yourself after a double dip and then suddenly be a side and a club that wins 30, 31 games? It's very difficult to change a mood around the club. It wouldn't surprise me, Pete, if this game ended 1-1 or a draw of some sort. And,
That's
and,
what.
I'm, and, I, and I don't think either side would view that as a bad result, to be honest.
No. Next up, Bradford against Peterborough United. Recent head-to-heads. Well, there's only been one game in the League One, and Peterborough lost 2-0. However, recent head-to-heads, there's been 20 games. Bradford have won 8. There's been 6 draws. Peterborough won 6. But Bradford has scored 31 goals in those matches and Peterborough 26. So there could be goals in this game. When we look at minus 3/4, Bradford's record is 1-3, draw 0, lost 1. But none of the 3 matches they won by 2 or more goals. Peterborough, when they're plus 3/4 away from home, 1-1, draw 0, lost 5. None of the 5 defeats again were by 2 or more goals. My ratings suggest there's value with Posh. Handicap minus 3/4, 382 matches, 232 home, 82 draw, 68 away, making that 174 home, 150 away. So there is a lean to the home side. I was pleasantly surprised with Posh's win yesterday at Bristol Rovers, Steve Evans' Bristol Rovers, where they would have obviously been keen to win that game. Previously, I've seen the friendly game, West Brom, where we lost 2-0. Terrible. And obviously we haven't bought anybody. I'm really worried this season that we could go down. Although I'm a little bit more positive after seeing yesterday's match. There's quite a few youngsters there. I think the Bradford win is a good bet here.
Do you? Oh, Peter, I thought you were going to come out with me here, and I really like Peterborough in this spot. So you're a little bit sort of negative, not negative, but
Yes.
pessimistic about the season ahead, are you?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, some bookmakers have Bradford as short as 1.61 for this game.
That's low.
There's only one bookmaker offering 8 to 11 at the minute. So I think any price pressure in this game is going to be downward. Now, we have to be realistic as well about Bradford here. They lost both of the playoff semi-finals 1-0 against Bolton last season. They won just 3 of the last 12 competitive league games, and 2 of those were against sides that got relegated. So Graham Alexander's side aren't exactly carrying a huge amount of momentum going into this season. I think Bradford massively overachieved last season. I think the bookmakers have got them priced, possibly far too short for the league title here. And these prices correlate into sort of where they have these match markets. I think Peterborough are a decent value here, Pete. I'm probably going to be taking a bit of the Posh plus 3/4 of a goal. I don't see any money coming for Peterborough, to be honest, between now and kick-off. So you never know, if you hold on towards sort of 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, you might get a better price. But yeah, I wouldn't be touching Bradford with a barge pole, mate.
Right, next up we move into League Two. This is an interesting game. Newport against Rochdale, plus 1/4 the handicap here. Recent head-to-heads, Newport are 1-0. There's been no draws. Rochdale 1-2. Indeed, when you look at the recent matches between Rochdale and Newport, Rochdale have won 4, there's been 1 draw, Newport 1-1. And when we look at the goals scored, Rochdale have scored 11, Newport 3. Plus 1/4 of a goal, Newport at home, 1-4 drawn, 2 lost 4. Rochdale, when they're minus 1/4 away from home in League Two, but obviously they've been relegated for a couple of seasons. Rochdale 1-0 drawn, 2 lost 1. Handicap plus 1/4, 457 matches, 142 home, 112 draws, 203 away. That makes 198 play 203. So there's nothing in the line really in the league. My rating suggesting small value Rochdale. And, like I said, they had an incredible season. That was an incredible end to the season, wasn't it, with them and York? Incredible.
It certainly was. Now, for those listening on the podcast in the early days of its release, you won't yet have seen my extensive column on Rochdale for this upcoming season, available on Wednesday at Jimmy Kempton Bets on Substack. Just getting another shameless plug in there, Pete. So I'm not going to spoil it too much. Both clubs have had a change of manager. Now, obviously, Rochdale's manager, Jimmy McNulty, has been poached by Stockport. Well, not possibly poached as such. He's moved on. Stockport have decided that he could be the man, given the body of work at Rochdale, to take them into the Championship. So he's been moved on via success. Newport have had a recent change at manager. Christian Fuchs has suddenly decided he don't fancy it down in South Wales anymore. Always thought it was a bit of a strange appointment in the first place. And he's been replaced by Hayden Mullins. Now, I do wonder if Hayden Mullins is just going to be another one of those seasoned pros from a high level, Premier League Championship career, 550 games at Palace, West Ham, Portsmouth, and Birmingham, who just come down to this level and think, crikey, this is hard work. This isn't really what I've been used to. Now, it's going to be early days for them. And I think, if at any stage this season Newport are going to sort of put some good performances in, it'll be the first sort of 3 or 4 games under Mullins. But I'm really sceptical of his appointment. And I think it could be a long season for Newport. So I won't give too much away about what I'm going to say in my column on Wednesday about Rochdale, Pete. But I think out of the two sides here, the momentum, even given the managerial change, because unlike Newport, Rochdale have appointed a manager from a lower league with something to prove, and I think he will probably adjust to life at this level a bit better than Hayden Mullins.
Chesterfield, Fleetwood next, minus half a goal here. Recent head-to-heads, Chesterfield are 1-1. There's been one draw, Fleetwood not one. Minus half a goal, Chesterfield, when there's minus half a goal at home in League 2, 1-4, drawn 2, lost 3. Fleetwood, when they're plus half a goal away from home, this is not a bad record, really. 1-3, drawn 4, lost 3. The handicap minus half, as we said, 552 matches in League 2, 265 home, 287 away. Slight lean to the away side in those trends. My rating system, no value in the line, but I think Chesterfield I think they're a decent bet here, really. I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
Well, this line's moved, Pete, because I was a bit lazy this morning, I checked the lines. Chesterfield were minus 3/4 earlier in the week. And at that market line, there was no way in hell I was going to be touching Chesterfield. And I'll tell you why. They've been incredible at home since they've come back into League Two. 21, 18 and 7 on home soil. So only 7 defeats, but 18 draws. So if you're backing a side on a 3/4 goal line, they've not only got to win the game, they've got to win the game by 2. Early in the season, top 6 against bottom 6. This is where I do tend to use some of the bookmaker projections, because I've also got a column coming out shortly about bookmaker projections, Pete, in recent seasons, about how different they are. And I tell you what, those anti-post prices, they tend to get them in and around 3 or 4 positions from their, what they expect to happen.
Yeah.
They don't always get them spot on, but I tell you what, there's not a big wide range. And Chesterfield have slated to be a top 6, bottom 6 Fleetwood. Early season, top 6 against bottom 6, 75% of games are won by the home side in this spot. They get the job done. First 6 games of each season since Chesterfield have returned, against bottom 6 sides, they've gone 5, 7 and 0 at home. So yes, they're slightly under 50% on the minus half a goal line, but they just do not lose these games. I think now that the line's trended to minus a half, I think Chesterfield offer a little bit of value here. But it's the amount of games they draw that stop me from wading in dramatically in this encounter.
Finally, York against Bristol Rovers, minus a quarter here. York obviously just promoted. Bristol Rovers, when they're plus a quarter away from home, 1-4, drawn 0, lost 6. Minus a quarter, 867 matches in the last 5-6 seasons. have got minus quarter. That's incredible, isn't it? So minus a quarter is obviously the line. 392 home, 257 draw, 218 away. So that makes 392 play 3-4-6. So there is a lean to the away side as such. I think, I was a little bit, like I said, Bristol Rovers, I was coming into this game fancying them, but after watching that yesterday, so Posh have played both these sides pre-season. Well, obviously Bristol Rovers in the Carabao Cup they won, and they beat York 2-1, which again is not such a bad result, I suppose. I haven't got a clue where to go on this, to be quite honest. My lean is towards Bristol Rovers.
Yeah, mine's more than a lean, Pete. I fancy Steve Evans' men here. I don't know if you've been keeping up to date with the circus at York, have you?
No, I know that no, I haven't. Have they sacked the manager or something? I can't remember now.
Yes, they sacked the manager. Um, Stuart Maynard done a great job, got them promoted, over 100 points. Now they've got history for doing daft things. Well, not daft things. Last season they did exactly the same thing. They got rid of Adam Hinshelwood, brought him in, and has got them promotion. So it's kind of almost like a sort of a Watford scenario from a few years ago where they have success, but then they get rid of the manager and then they try and rinse and repeat it. It's not the fact that they've got rid of the manager that's done them well. It's who they've brought in, Pete. They brought Scott Lindsay in. Now, Scott Lindsay has failed in his last two jobs at MK Dons and going back to Crawley, where he had great success a few seasons ago, got them promoted out of this league when they were fancied to be like relegation contenders. But did he just catch lightning in a bottle? Because it's the only place where he's had success, Lindsay. Now, they got beat the other night in the Carabao Cup. Very defensive sort of post game interview from Scott Lindsay. The crowd booed them off. They refused to go round and clap the supporters at the end of the game. Now, I understand the reasons why, because everybody knows he's only going to get a load of abuse, and what's the point in doing that? But considering this side gained promotion with 106 points, there is so much split fan base there. I've never quite known anything like it, really. By contrast, Slimline Steve Evans takes what appears to be a very settled Bristol Rovers side to York this weekend. Very fancy to get promotion. Tell you what, I think Steve Evans will get them in and around the playoffs, and that automatically would make this game off of a scratch line. I'm taking Bristol Rovers here plus quarter of a goal, Pete.
Hmm. Right, let's have a look here then, or we'll sort of finalise these up. I quite like Chesterfield at home to Fleetwood, and I like that even more with the stats that you said about, top six playing sort of bottom six potentially. I think there's reasonable value there. I'm interested in Lincoln plus 1.5, but these are the type of games where you go there with with the hope, and next minute you're 5-0 down with an hour gone, isn't it? I mean, I can remember going to when Peterborough went to Sheffield United when we were promoted last time. It was about the second or third away game of the season. Early September, sort of whatever. And to be quite honest, we lost 6-2. And to be quite honest, I thought we'd landed on a different planet during the first half. I thought this team that we're playing is just far superior. I don't know what it's going to be like for Lincoln, though. We do not know yet.
No, and there'll be days like that, I'm sure, for the Imps. I just know that for this weekend, we will be the most organised that you will probably ever see us this season. So I would not put you off or anybody off backing us this weekend, Pete. Now, unfortunately, you've just managed to talk me off your boys plus three quarters of a goal. I was really, really keen on backing Peterborough, but I reckon I'm just going to swerve them just based on a little bit of your
Yeah, I
nervousness.
think as well that the game last year, Bradford dominated it. They really dominated it. I'm surprised they only won 2-0, and that was the Peterborough team or squad were potentially stronger then.
Okay, so I'm going to swerve out of that then, Pete. So thank you. I won't be thanking you if Peterborough win 1-0.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm gonna trust another one of your old boys, Pete. I'm going to take Steve Evans' Bristol Rovers plus a quarter of a goal away at York City. I think it's an atmosphere that Evans will play on there. He knows how to turn a home crowd. There'll be a lot of time wasting early on, playing on the nervousness of the home crowd. And I think Bristol Rovers probably may even come away with all 3 points, but plus quarter of a goal, I think they're a really good bet.
Right, so we've got Substack at Jimmy
Yep,
Kempton Bets.
that's me. Got
Yeah,
a
and then
few
we've got
articles coming up. I've got Tranmere, Shrewsbury. I've got a column on Rochdale. I'll have the weekend report where I'll go through a few of the prices. My market prices is already out on Substack.
yeah.
6 days that I've highlighted where I think prices could move or should move. Yeah, a lot going on, folks.
And obviously, we've got the Trade on Sports upgrade, which I will obviously update you about as and when that happens. And obviously, we've got the newsletter, which appears in LinkedIn. All that will be under underneath here. We'll put the links and whatever. Anyway, we shall see you next week when we'll be talking about the Premiership, won't we? Or the podcast actually may be a little bit later than next week, mine, but obviously we've got to get these games out of the way and then look at the fine. So it'll probably be in about 10 days' time. But
Yeah,
anyway, good luck on the opening weekend, everybody.
best of luck, everybody.